بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إني أفتتح الثناء بحمدك، وأنت مسدد للصواب بمنك، وأيقنت أنك أنت أرحم الراحمين في موضع العفو والرحمة، وأشد المعاقبين في موضع النكال والنقمة، وأعظم المتجبرين في موضع الكبرياء والعظمة. اللهم أذنت لي في دعائك ومسألتك، فاسمع يا سميع مدحتي، وأجب يا رحيم دعوتي، وأقل يا غفور عثرتي. فكم يا إلهي من كربة قد فرجتها، وهموم قد كشفتها، وعثرة قد أقلتها، ورحمة قد نشرتها، وحلقة بلاء قد فككتها. الحمد لله الذي لم يتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا، ولم يكن له شريك في الملك، ولم يكن له ولي من الذل، وكبره تكبيرا. الله أكبر. الحمد لله بجميع محامده كلها، على جميع نعمه كلها. الحمد لله الذي لا مضاد له في ملكه، ولا منازع له في أمره. الحمد لله الذي لا شريك له في خلقه، ولا شبيه له في عظمته. الحمد لله الفاشي في الخلق أمره وحمده، الظاهر بالكرم مجده، الباسط بالجود يده، الذي تنقص خزائنه ولا تزيده كثرة العطاء إلا جودا وكرما. إنه هو العزيز الوهاب. اللهم إني أسألك قليلا من كثير، مع حاجة بي إليه عظيمة، وغناك عنه قديم، وهو عندي كثير، وهو عليك سهل يسير. اللهم إن عفوك عن ذنبي، وتجاوزك عن خطيئتي، وصفحك عن ظلمي، وسترك على قبيح عملي، وحلمك عن كثير جرمي، عندما كان من خطئي وعمدي، وأطمعني في أن أسألك ما لا أستوجبه منك، الذي رزقتني من رحمتك، وأرأيتني من قدرتك، وعرفتني من إجابتك، فصرت أدعوك آمنا، وأسألك مستأنسا، لا خائفا ولا وجلا، مدلا عليك فيما قصدت فيه إليك. فإن أبطأ عني عتبت بجهلي عليك، ولعل الذي أبطأ عني هو خير لي لعلمك بعاقبة الأمور. فلم أر مولا كريما أصبر على عبد لئيم منك عليه. يا رب إنك تدعوني فأولي عنك، وتتحبب إلي فأتبغض إليك، وتتودد إلي فلا أقبل منك، كأن لي التطول عليك، فلم يمنعك ذلك من الرحمة لي والإحسان إلي والتفضل علي بجودك وكرمك، فارحم عبدك الجاهل وجد عليه بفضل إحسانك، إنك جواد كريم. الحمد لله مالك الملك مجري الفلك مسخر الرياح فالق الإصباح ديان الدين رب العالمين. الحمد لله على حلمه بعد علمه، والحمد لله على عفوه بعد قدرته، والحمد لله على طول أناته في غضبه وهو قادر على ما يريد. الحمد لله خالق الخلق باسط الرزق فالق الإصباح ذي الجلال والإكرام والفضل والإنعام، الذي بعد فلا يرى وقرب فشهد النجوى تبارك وتعالى. الحمد لله الذي ليس له منازع يعادله ولا شبيه يشاكله ولا ظهير يعاضده، قهر بعزته الأعزاء وتواضع لعظمته العظماء، فبلغ بقدرته ما يشاء. الحمد لله الذي يجيبني حين أناديه ويستر علي كل عورة وأنا أعصيه، يعظم النعمة علي فلا أجازيه، فكم من موهبة هنيئة قد أعطاني وعظيمة مخوفة قد كفاني وبهجة مولقة قد أراني، فأثني عليه حامدا واذكره مسبحا. الحمد لله الذي لا يهتك حجابه ولا يغلق بابه ولا يرد سائله ولا يخيب آمله. الحمد لله الذي يؤمن الخائفين وينجي الصالحين ويرفع المستضعفين ويضع المستكبرين ويهلك ملوكا ويستخلف آخرين. والحمد لله قاسم الجبارين مبير الظالمين مدرك الهاربين نكال الظالمين صريخ المستصرخين موضع حاجات الطالبين معتمد المؤمنين. الحمد لله الذي من خشيته ترعد السماء وسكانها وترجف الأرض وعمارها وتموج البحار ومن يسبح في غمراتها. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. الحمد لله الذي يخلق ولم يخلق ويرزق ولا يرزق ويطعم ولا يطعم ويميت الأحياء ويحيي الموتى وهو حي لا يموت بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وأمينك وصفيك وحبيبك وخيرتك من خلقك وحافظ سرك ومبلغ رسالاتك أفضل وأحسن وأجمل وأكمل وأزكى وأنمى وأطيب وأطهر وأسنى وأكثر ما صليت وباركت وترحمت وتحننت وسلمت على أحد من عبادك وأنبيائك ورسلك وصفوتك وأهل الكرامة عليك من خلقك. اللهم وصل على علي أمير المؤمنين ووصي رسول رب العالمين، عبدك ووليك وأخي رسولك وحجتك على خلقك وآيتك الكبرى والنبأ العظيم. وصل على الصديقة الطاهرة فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين. وصل على سبطي الرحمة وإمامي الهدى الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة. وصل على أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى وعلي ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الهادي المهدي، حججك على عبادك وأمنائك في بلادك صلاة كثيرة دائمة. اللهم وصل على ولي أمرك القائم المؤمل والعدل المنتظر وحفه بملائكتك المقربين، وأيده بروح القدس يا رب العالمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم اجعله الداعي إلى كتابك والقائم بدينك، استخلفه في الأرض كما استخلفت الذي من قبله، مكن له دينه الذي ارتضيته له، أبدله من بعد خوفه أمنا يعبدك لا يشرك بك شيئا. اللهم أعزه وأعزز به، وانصره وانتصر به، وانصره نصرا عزيزا، وافتح له فتحا يسيرا، واجعل له من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا. اللهم أظهر به دينك وسنة نبيك حتى لا يستخفي بشيء من الحق مخافة أحد من الخلق. اللهم إنا نرغب إليك في دولة كريمة تعز بها الإسلام وأهله، وتذل بها النفاق وأهله، وتجعلنا فيها من الدعاة إلى طاعتك والقادة إلى سبيلك، وترزقنا بها كرامة الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم ما عرفتنا من الحق فحملناه، وما قصرنا عنه فبلغناه. اللهم المم به شعثنا، واشعب به صدعنا، وارتق به فطقنا، وكثر به قلتنا، وأعزز به ذلتنا، وأغن به عائلنا، واقض به عن مغرمنا، واجبر به فقرنا، وسد به خلتنا، ويسر به عسرنا، وبيض به وجوهنا، وفك به عسرنا، وأنجح به طلبتنا، وأنجز به مواعيدنا، واستجب به دعوتنا، وأعطنا به سؤلنا، وبلغنا به من الدنيا والآخرة آمالنا وأعطنا به فوق رغبتنا يا خير المسؤولين وأوسع المعطين اشف به صدورنا وأذهب به غيظ قلوبنا واهدنا به لما اختلف فيه من الحق بإذنك إنك تهدي من تشاء إلى صراط مستقيم وانصرنا به على عدوك وعدونا إله الحق آمين اللهم إنا نشكو إليك فقد نبيك صلواتك عليه وآله وغيبة ولينا وكثرة عدونا وقلة عددنا وشدة الفتن بنا وتظاهر الزمان علينا فصل على محمد وآله وأعنا على ذلك بفتح منك تعجله وبضر تكشفه ونصر تعزه وسلطان حق تظهره ورحمة منك تجللناها وعافية منك تلبسناها برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وصل اللهم على محمد وآله الطاهرين
Sit here, Qibla. Sit here to recite. Okay. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Wanted to recite an English nasheed, but I don't see my son here. He's disappeared. Can you get him? I'll recite something in the test. 10 minutes we have, Qibla? Or? Okay. بدر اور خندق میں تھی جس دم لڑائی آشکار تیغ حیدر نے کیا ہر ایک موذی کو شکار واہ رے ضرب ید اللہ ایک سے دو دو سے چار اور کہتے تھے جبریل ان کے شان میں ہر بار بار لا فتح الا علی لا سیف الا ذوالفقار نعرہ حیدری Dar Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad salawat. Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. There's a salam in English which is, I call it a Ramadan nasheed. It is called Ya Rahim, Ya Kareem, and it is around 6 names of Allah which end with Eem. Rahim, Kareem, Halim, Hakim, Azim. So inshallah, please recite also the chorus with us as we proceed. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Ya Rahim, Ya Kareem, Ya Rahim, O Ya Kareem, Ya Alim, O Ya Hakim, Ya Halim, O Ya Azim. Everyone. Ya Rahim, O Ya Kareem, Ya Alim, O Ya Hakim, Ya Halim, O Ya Azim. O the one who is unique, 'tis your nearness that we seek every day of every week. In this month of Ramadan, in the shade of the Quran, O the merciful Rahim, Ya Rahim, O Ya Kareem, Ya Alim, O Ya Hakim, Ya Halim, O Ya Azim. As we give the poor their due, through our actions we renew our promise unto you. Our guide is the Imam. May you protect him from harm. O the generous Ya Kareem, Ya Rahim, O Ya Kareem, Ya Alim, O Ya Hakim, Ya Halim, O Ya Azim. What we keep and what we throw, when we stop and where we go, who is friend and who is foe, we surrender unto thee. What we hear and what we see, O the all-knowing Alim, Ya Rahim, O Ya Kareem, Ya Alim, O Ya Hakim, Ya Halim, O Ya Azim. May our conscience never quake, our commitment never shake, till the final breath we take. In your service we remain, in our solace, in our pain. O the wise Al-Hakim, Ya Rahim, O Ya Kareem, Ya Alim, O Ya Hakim, Ya Halim, O Ya Azim. Our Sawm, our Salat, our Hajj, our Zakat, our Maut, our Hayat, may you nurture our faith through the holy Ahl Bayt, O the forbearing Halim, Ya Rahim, O Ya Kareem, Ya Alim, O Ya Hakim, Ya Halim, O Ya Azim. Our Prophet Mustafa, our Mawla Murtada, our Lady Fatima, to their holy progeny, tie our love and loyalty. O the Supreme, Ya Alim, Ya Rahim, O Ya Kareem, everyone, Ya Alim, O Ya Hakim, Ya Halim, O Ya Alim, Ya Halim, O Ya Alim. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Once again, salawat ala Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Thank you to Brother Ali Abbas for a beautiful recitation of Nasheed. I'd like to begin by requesting Surah Fatiha for the marhumin of the sponsors of today's program. I'll mention the name of some of the marhumin. Marhum Sayyid Tafakhur Abid Naqvi, Tajammul Abbas, Ifdal Ali Shah, Zakiya Begum, Wajid Ali Shah, Mushtaq Begum. And also for all of the other marhumin of today's sponsors and the marhumin of our community and mu'minin and mu'minat throughout the world, Suratul Fatiha. Yesterday we spoke briefly about one of the most important documents we have in Islamic history and one of the most beautiful of the legacies we have from Imam Ali alayhi salam. Even in the sea of wisdom, that large number of very eloquent statements and passages in Nahj al-Balagha, this passage or this letter stands out. And that is the epistle or the covenant of Imam Ali for his governor in Egypt, Malik al-Ashtar. This is letter number 53 in Nahj al-Balagha. And we spoke about some sections of it yesterday because we were not able to look at many areas of guidance in this letter. I want to just look at a few more sections today, inshallah. So let us begin with salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The most beautiful thing of this letter is that it shows how in Imam Ali's worldview, our worldly obligations, they are combined with our religious and spiritual obligations. This is a difficulty for many people today. I hear from many young professionals that when I go to work, I feel like I'm kind of dead in terms of my soul. I'm just working in a very materialistic environment, and I don't feel religiously fulfilled. Maybe emotionally, I don't even feel fulfilled. And so it's a rat race, even if the person is not competing to, get fame or power, but just the nature of that environment, it is deadening to the soul. And just do a thought experiment for a moment. Imagine our ancestors in the distant past. Maybe some of them, they worked from dawn until dusk in the fields. Difficult work with primitive tools, maybe even without sufficient clothing and footwear to protect themselves from injury. Or maybe there was somebody who was a bricklayer. They had to make their bricks by hand and lift them by hand, and then their whole day would be putting one brick on top of another. This is probably how many of our ancestors, we don't have videos and pictures, but that's probably how they spent their day, in one task or another. Or if they were digging a well, they didn't have a mechanical auger. It would actually be a person with a very heavy shovel trying to work through rock and the earth. The point is that most likely those people who had those difficult tasks, they didn't feel that same shallowness in their work. They didn't have air conditioning, they didn't have workers' compensation, they didn't have a 401k, so the safety and the physical environment and even the pay, none of it was comparable. So what was the difference? Some people might say that, well, it's physically back-breaking work, and that's what then gives it some power. But even today, people who are doing physical work, they might not feel that same connection to Allah or to spirituality. The real difference is not that that was physical work and today we are doing mental work. The real difference is the state of our mind. And because our state of mind is different, our culture is different. That person who was doing the back-breaking work, whether they were bricklaying or digging wells or in the fields or whatever it might have been, a soldier guarding the frontier, difficult or easy, in their mind, they were building something for their wife, for their children, for their grandchildren. Their life was not limited to the material work that they were doing and the hardships that they were facing. But there was a connection to family, to community, to religion. And so their emotional horizon was much broader than ours, even if our physical horizon and even our intellectual horizon is much broader than theirs. I want to repeat that because it's a very important point. Sometimes we know more facts, and so we think we have a leg up on our grandmothers and grandfathers and ancestors because we know more. They probably thought that the sun revolved around the earth. They probably couldn't explain circulation of blood. Today, you don't need to be an adult or an expert or college educated. Even people who've been through regular schooling, they're literate. They understand the water cycle. They understand, many things. So we think that because we have some intellectual advancement, that we are also emotionally and spiritually better off. And those two don't go together. It's wonderful if you are educated, intelligent, and also emotionally and spiritually profound. But often, people have one without the other. What is essential to feel like your life is purposeful and meaningful is not luxury. It's not a good working environment. That's wonderful. We should be grateful for it. But what is needed is to have that emotional connection. And today, because many of us are individuals, we're not married, or we're delaying marriage, or even if we're married, the institution has decayed so much that what I am doing is my life, and what my spouse is doing is their life, and what my children are doing is their life. And why would a parent dream about sacrificing themselves for the children when the children don't feel any kind of obligation towards the parents? Because it has to be a mutual relationship. If I'm going to sacrifice for somebody else, then there should be something, not necessarily that I am getting personally, but that together we are building. Otherwise, it's not sustainable. Even a parent who is filled with love for their children, if there is no reciprocal love and obligation, the institution will decay. So this is the issue that we face. This letter of Imam Ali alayhi salam, superficially, it is a letter of a caliph to a governor on how to govern effectively. But reading between the lines, this is the reminder of Imam Ali alayhi salam that you are not a governor administrating a province. You are an abd and a creature of Allah, fulfilling a role in the divine scheme. And when I can see that I am fulfilling a role in the divine scheme, then I'm not just one cog in a machine, a number out of thousands of employees in my company, or one person working in a high-rise, or working virtually from home, but rather I am fulfilling a purpose. No matter how simple or mundane or repetitive the task might be, my purpose is to fulfill a role for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so I have meaning, and I have purpose, and I have depth. That's not because you need to change your job. Many people, when they feel that their job is not intellectually fulfilling, they think their solution is in a career change. It's not always a career change. In fact, usually it's not a career change. It's a change in purpose and perspective. A change in connection to God, to your family, to your community, to your purpose in life. And if you have that purpose, then even the most difficult job and even the most mundane task can be filled with richness and with meaning. So this is one of the things that you should look at when you read this letter of Imam Ali. How can you take something that seems like it's just a job, and how can you make it a calling? How can you make it ibadah and service? So let's just take a look at a few of these expressions. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. After Imam Ali says that people will make mistakes. When you're dealing with people, you're not always going to have very aware, very cooperative citizens. Sometimes will object, even when you're doing your best. That's the nature of any kind of public service. The Imam says, فَأَعْطِهِمْ مِنْ عَفْوِكَ وَصَفْحِكَ مِثْلَ الَّذِي تُحِبُّ وَتَرْضَى أَنْ يُؤْتِيَكَ اللَّهُ مِنْ عَفْوِهِ وَصَفْحِهِ. Alaikum salam. Give the people the same forgiveness that you wish Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you. Now, when I'm an employer, I am a public servant, I am a volunteer at the masjid, let's say I'm a volunteer at the masjid, and I very nicely tell somebody to please move forward because I need to clear the space. And some people in our community, they maybe had a fight at home, or they had a stressful day at work, or they had a hard time getting here, or they're just a uptight person, they get mad at me. So here, I'm trying to volunteer, not earning any profit, I'm not trying to get any recognition, and rather than thanks, I get a criticism, or I get a scolding. And many people, their natural response is, I didn't sign up for this. I don't need this. And they walk away. Sometimes it's in the family, sometimes it's in the community. It can be in any area. But Imam Ali is teaching us here that when you have that relationship, don't even think of it as you, either as a job or as a volunteer, serving a person. You're not dealing with a person. You're dealing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's your transaction. So now if they show you ignorance, then immediately think, what kind of person am I to Allah? What has Allah done for me? And what have I done for Him? He's given me so many blessings. And I give Him my leftover time, my leftover money, my leftover sincerity. And then I hold a grudge against Him. So now Imam Ali is saying, you see that frustration in your material life? One way to look at it is, this is a human relations problem. If it's within your company, it's a human resources problem. Another way to look at it, which is far more meaningful, is, deal with the human issue, of course. People shouldn't be yelling at those who are serving them. But it's also a spiritual issue. And use that to develop humility. Use that to develop a greater gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Imam says that أَعْطِهِمْ مِنْ عَفْوِكَ وَصَفْحِكَ. Now the Quran uses this word فَعْفُوا وَصْفَحُوا, and Imam Ali uses it. There is a difference between afu and safr. This is a very useful distinction to remember. Afu comes first. Afu is tarkul iqab. And safr is tarkul itab. Iqab and itab. Afu means I forgive you. I'm not going to punish you. So for example, you borrow my car and you get into a fender bender. If I say I'm not demanding compensation, you have to pay for the repair, that is afu. But the next time you need a car, I'm not giving you my car. Remember what you did last time? I have done afu, but I haven't done safr. Afu is tarkul iqab. I'm not going to give you an uqubat, a punishment, demand compensation or whatever it is. It's fair if I do, but afu is generous, it's gracious. But then one step above afu is safr. Don't just do tarkul iqab, do tarkul itab. Itab is when I do malamat. I criticize you, I remind you. So fa'fu wasfahu. First, forgive the sin. And then, safr is also related to the word safha, turn the page. Turn the page, meaning you're not looking at the previous page. Now you don't even do malamat and itab. So, Imam Ali, he says, فَأَعْطِهِمْ مِنْ عَفْوِكَ وَصَفْحِكَ مِثْلَ الَّذِي تُحِبُّ وَتَرْضَى أَنْ يُؤْتِيَكَ اللَّهُ مِنْ عَفْوِهِ وَصَفْحِهِ فإنك فوقه ووالي الأمر عليك فوقك والله فوق من ولاك. So you are now in a position of authority over the people of Egypt. And the one who appointed you, which was Imam Ali, is in a position of authority over you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in a position of authority over Imam Ali. So don't let any kind of authority, I am in charge of 20 people in my office, or I am in charge of 2,000 people in my division. Don't let any position of authority make you feel superior. Because if you are in authority over one person, then there is somebody who is in authority over you. And if you say, no, I'm the boss, this is my company, Nobody's in a position of authority over me. Then Imam Ali, he reminds us that even if you are working for Imam Ali himself considers himself to be a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wallahu fawqa man wallak. Allah is the one who is an authority, even over his Imam, even over his prophets, even over the Ma'asum. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So now how should you act when you are in a position of authority? Imam Ali, he says, وَلَا تَبْجَحَنَّ بِعُقُوبَةٍ وَلَا تُسْرِعَنَّ إِلَى بَادِرَةٍ وَجَدْتَ مِنْهَا مَنْدُوحًا. Bajah is to be glad. And Imam Ali says, when you need to punish, don't ever be glad that you need to punish. Sometimes you are in a position to call somebody out for a mistake. I don't know if you've ever been in a position to fire somebody. There's some people you regret firing, if you have to lay them off, for example. But then there's some people that you relish firing. You know, if you were able, you would say, I want to record this, so I can revisit it. This person deserved it. Now, Imam Ali, the people that he was going to punish, he would only punish people who had earned it. And probably, in almost all cases, anybody who was punished by Imam Ali had earned 10 times the punishment that they received. And Imam Ali had probably forgiven so many times. But then Imam Ali says, وَلَا تَبْجَحَنَّ بِعُقُوبَةٍ. Never relish a punishment. It's not only firing somebody. If you are disciplining your children, then it's not a grudge. And if I feel like right now I'm going to yell at them because I'm angry, then I cannot do it that time, because it would be bajah. I'm relishing that now I'm going to put you in your place. Children, workers, anywhere. When you need to express anger or punish, only do it because this is needed for islah. This is needed for telling the person what they did wrong and helping them not repeat that mistake. It is a process of improvement, not a process of revenge. So Imam Ali, he says, وَلَا تَبْجَحَنَّ بِعُقُوبَةٍ وَلَا تُسْرِعَنَّ إِلَى بَادِرَةٍ وَجَدْتَ مِنْهَا مَنْدُوحًا. And related, never rush. Sometimes you need to punish, but don't do it in a rush. Consider. Many of us, when we get angry, then our temper, it gets the better of us. And we say, and then we later on think about it and we justify it. We say the person deserved it. But Imam Ali says that don't justify it after the fact. Think about it before the fact. And if you're going to enjoy the yelling, then don't do it. And if you're rushing into it without having considered what is the best way to deal with the issue, then pause. مَا وَجَدْتَ مِنْهَا مَنْدُوحًا. Always delay any kind of reckoning or any kind of punishment if it's possible. Postpone the fight. If it's inevitable, you'll have to deal with it anyway. But see if there is a way first to cool down, first to consider other options, maybe to consult with somebody, and de-escalate and find a better way to deal with conflict or hardship that you may have. Then Imam Ali says that وَإِنْ أَحْدَثَ لَكَ مَا أَنْتَ فِيهِ مِنْ سُلْطَانِكَ أُبَّهَةً أَوْ مَخِيلَةً. Sometimes, when you are in a position of authority, you are at risk for becoming arrogant. There are people who have nothing who are arrogant. That's a defense mechanism and a coping mechanism. Because I'm a nobody, I need to be somehow arrogant. But it is much more prevalent to be arrogant when you are a somebody, at least in the worldly standards. Again, it's not exclusive. The diseases of the soul, they can afflict a poor person or a rich person, a powerful person or a person without any power or influence. But they affect them in different ways and to a different extent. If you have been blessed by Allah with above average income, if you have been blessed by Allah with above average social or political power, then you are at greater risk for arrogance. Sometimes we don't think about that. If we go to an environment where we feel like we may have been exposed to a deadly disease, then we think about it. If we come back from hiking and we see a tick, maybe we're concerned about Lyme disease or other examples that people with more knowledge can give for our physical health. But what about the Lyme disease of the soul? If you're successful professionally, if you're wealthy professionally, if you're powerful socially or professionally, there's a tick on your body and it's diseased and you are at risk. What are you doing to treat yourself? So Imam Ali, that's also part of the advice he gives to Malik al-Ashtar. Again, Malik al-Ashtar was, think of the most pious person you know in your time. Maybe for some of us it would be one of the Maraja. Maybe for somebody it'd be somebody, very pious in our family. Malik al-Ashtar was far more pious than that person. He was one of a kind among the companions of Imam Ali. Imam Ali mourned him so deeply after he was martyred that the family of Malik al-Ashtar said that it's almost as if Imam Ali is more grieved than we are. That's how unique he was. And to that person, Imam Ali is saying that in وَإِذَا أَحْدَثَ لَكَ مَا أَنْتَ فِيهِ مِنْ سُلْطَانِكَ أُبَّهَةً أَوْ مَخِيلَةً. Not if, but when. You are a governor. When you start to feel arrogant because of that position of power that you are in, فَانظُرْ إِلَىٰ عِظَمِ مُلْكِ اللَّهِ فَوْقَكَ وَقُدْرَتِهِ مِنْكَ. Then think about the power of Allah. You're a king. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the King of Kings. And then وَقُدْرَتِهِ مِنْكَ عَلَى مَا لَا تَقْدِرُ عَلَيْهِ مِنْ نَفْسِكَ. In spite of all of your power, Allah has power over certain things that you can't even take care of for yourself. Even with all of our technology and all of our advancements, I don't control my body. I can't reverse my aging. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has that power over us. Imam Ali says that this will happen to you. And this is maybe one of the reasons why Hajj is wajib on those people who can afford it. Allah knows best, but if you can't afford Hajj, then chances are you can get that level of spirituality without doing Hajj. But if you can afford Hajj, that tick is attached to your body. You need it more. You need the expense, you need the trip, and you need to suffer in Muzdalifah and in Mina just to realize that everything is not first class, 5-star, comfortable accommodations. Otherwise, you would never find out in life. Of course, today now people have 5-star Hajj. And I would encourage you, if you can make that trip, see what life is actually like. There's a reason why we have ihram. There's a reason why we have restrictions in ihram. So the purpose of Hajj is for you to discover that part of your soul, not just to go from a mansion to a luxurious accommodation and then come back. But that is a separate issue. It is good to spend in Hajj. Our Imam Zain al-Abidin, they used to spend the best of their wealth in Hajj, not to get luxurious accommodations, but to give in the way of Allah and also to take care of their fellow travelers. The point Imam Ali is making is that use your worldly circumstances to develop spirituality. Use your working environment, your professional, your personal environment to move closer to Allah. Don't just use it as a way to get ahead in this world. Because if you get ahead in this world, it's going to come to an end. And then you're going to have a crisis in your soul. But if you use your worldly advancement to get closer to Allah, life will still come to an end. Your strength, your power is still going to come to an end. But then rather than saying, halaka anni sultaniya, you will be able to say that, fine, this stage is coming to an end, but I have prepared the next stage. I've built it. And insha'Allah, I will transition. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the ability to learn and benefit from the words of wisdom of Ahlul Bayt, and in particular the words of Amirul Mu'mineen. There is much wisdom. So far in 2 days, we have just gone through about 7 sentences of this epistle of Imam Ali in Nahj al-Balagha, but you could spend as much time contemplating every phrase as we have spent on just these few sentences. So may we be able to learn and benefit and then improve our own sincerity and our lives in accordance with these teachings. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Just a reminder before we go to the Green Hall for Salat, inshallah, on April 30th, we will be having a fundraising dinner for the Imam al-Asr Masjid. With your du'as and support, the project has been making steady progress. We are currently working with the county on the site planning, and that has already gone through 1 submission. And inshallah, we will be hopefully getting our building permit and having groundbreaking later on in this year. So we need your continued du'as and support. If you have not already signed up to buy a ticket for the fundraiser, then please, you can speak with Brother Ali Abbas or myself, or I don't see Sayyid Ali Shah here, but if he's here, you can speak with him, or in the sisters, Sister Rizwana Zaidi. So some people, they might be out of town. You can still contribute and still buy a ticket, inshallah, even if you're not in town. That will still be able to be of benefit to the community and thawab for yourself. So please do keep that in mind. And a reminder, inshallah, that most likely Eid al-Fitr will be next Friday. Please take time out of your schedule. It might be a work day for some of you, but if you can take time off of work or take the day off, Eid is a time for Muslims to come together as communities, as families, to worship and to greet and to be with each other. So don't deprive yourself of the opportunity of joining your community for Eid al-Fitr. Inshallah, most likely that will be next Friday. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.